Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into something really fascinating. It's session 4 of the Law of One Material.
That's right. And if you're listening, you probably have that curiosity, that, you know, desire to explore these deeper ideas about existence. That's exactly what we're doing.
We're looking at session 4, which comes from these Q&A sessions with an entity called Ra. This one focuses on the law of wisdom.
hmm And our goal here is really to unpack it for you, go through the questions, the answers, and offer hopefully a beautiful, insightful, and positive take on it all.
Exactly. And session 4 really dives into the relationship between pyramid shapes, initiation, and even healing. It picks up right from a question at the end of session 3.
Yeah, about whether that pyramid shape actually affected initiation. So let's start there. Question 4.2.
Okay, so does the shape of the pyramid have an effect upon the initiation?
And Ross says basically yes, a definite yes. They refer back to the previous discussion about initiating the physical body, the body complex.
So then they add a layer, right,
Uh,
about spirit initiation.
right. They say spirit initiation was even more carefully designed, specifically looking at time-space ratios for the individual. It gets pretty specific.
Yeah, they ask you to visualize one side of the pyramid, like a triangle,
Mm-hmm.
and divide that into 4 smaller, equal triangles.
Okay, got it.
Now imagine doing that on all sides. Where those triangles meet inside on a horizontal level, it forms a kind of diamond shape.
Ah, okay. I
Yes.
can picture that, like an internal structure.
Exactly. And the very center point of that diamond, that specific spot, Ross says that's the ideal place
Ideal for what
for the
exactly?
convergence, for energies from what they call infinite dimensions to meet with the person's mind-body-spirit complex, like a focal point.
Wow. Okay, so the shape itself creates this intersection point for energy.
That's the idea. It's designed so the initiate could mentally perceive and channel this gateway to intelligent infinity.
Mm.
The pyramid is like a tool for that connection.
Makes sense. And the next question, 4.3, just clarifies the position.
Yeah, it's quick. Just confirming the initiate is on the center line at that specific height where the triangles intersect.
And Ross says,
This is correct.
yeah,
Simple as that.
okay. Then 4.4 brings up extra-dimensional energy.
Right. The questioner uses that term,
Mhm.
and Ra acknowledges it, but they gently suggest a different term,
Which is,
multidimensional. Their reasoning is interesting. They say there aren't really any extra dimensions.
implying it's all interconnected, part of one whole.
That seems to be the gist, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a subtle language shift,
hmm
but it points toward that core law of one idea, everything is fundamentally connected, no extra bits floating around.
Right. Not separate add-ons, but interwoven aspects.
Okay. Then question 4.5 tackles the size of the pyramid. Does bigger mean better for initiation?
And what's the answer there? Is size critical?
It's nuanced. Ra explains that actually every size pyramid has its own specific point of streaming in of intelligent infinity.
Oh, interesting. So even small ones have an effect.
Yeah, they give examples like placing small pyramids on the body. The effect depends on where the body is relative to that specific entry point for the energy.
Okay. So smaller ones work differently, but what about the big ones, like for those major initiations?
For those, Ress says, size was crucial. They needed to be large, towering. Why? To allow that multidimensional intelligent infinity to completely, fill the channel.
So the whole person is inside that focused energy field.
Exactly. The entire body complex needed to be within that focused area.
Yeah.
And they also mentioned the size was needed for healing, too, so both the healer and the person being healed could rest within that point.
Which naturally leads to thinking about the Great Pyramid, right? Question 4.6 asks if Giza is still usable for this stuff.
Yeah. And Rez analogy here is quite memorable. They say it's like a piano out of tune.
The piano out of tune, meaning,
Meaning it can still sort of play the tune. There's still some energy there, a ghost of the streaming, as they put it.
okay.
But it's disharmonious, poor quality. And it can negatively affect people who are sensitive to these energies.
And why is it out of tune?
2 main reasons they give. First, the planet's electromagnetic field has shifted over time, so those key energy streaming points aren't aligned the same way.
Ah, okay. Natural changes.
And second, the discordant vibratory complexes, basically, negative energies or intentions from people who use the pyramid later for less compassionate purposes. That also messed with the energy.
So misuse and planetary shifts have detuned it. That makes a kind of intuitive sense. The energy of a place is affected by intention.
Definitely. So the next logical question, 4.7, is, could we build one today? With modern materials, could we make a working pyramid for initiation and healing?
And the answer?
It's a yes. Ray confirms it's possible. They say the actual material isn't the most critical thing.
What is then?
The geometry, the ratios of time-space complexes, as they phrase it, getting the shape and alignment right.
Okay, so we could build one, but there's a catch, I assume.
A big one. Ra immediately follows up by saying its usefulness for initiation or healing depends entirely on the inner disciplines of the people involved.
Right, so the pyramid is a potential tool, but the power comes from the person, their consciousness, their development.
Exactly. The tool only works if the user knows how to wield it, basically.
Which leads nicely into 4.8. Are there people around today with those necessary inner disciplines?
Ra says yes, absolutely. There are individuals alive now capable of this calling.
But there feels like a but coming.
There is. Ra makes a really important point. The time of the pyramids, as it was understood and used then, is kind of past. The structure itself is timeless, sure, but the way universal energies flow has changed.
Changed how?
This is fascinating. They say back then the energy currents, the streamings, required a certain kind of understanding of purity. But now, the energies have evolved, become more enlightened in their view of purity.
So what does that mean for people today?
It means there are individuals now whose inner state, their connection, is already so aligned with intelligent infinity, they can facilitate healing without needing a big physical structure like a pyramid.
Wow. So our own inner development can potentially bypass the need for the external tool.
Seems like it,
Yeah.
which is a powerful thought. And it flows into question 4.9, asking if Ra could actually teach healing techniques if people with this innate ability were found.
And they say yes.
Yes, instruction is possible. But they add complexity. They say there isn't just one way to teach healing. Different systems work for different mind-body-spirit complexes.
Makes sense. People are different, have different backgrounds, different ways of understanding.
Right. They contrast the maybe simpler mental frameworks of people in earlier cycles with the potentially more complex layered views we might have after many incarnations.
And they also mention people choosing service.
Yeah, the distortion of service. They suggest some individuals chose this path and actually brought latent healing skills and knowledge with them from other dimensions into this life. They might just know how to heal intuitively.
So a real diversity of ways healing ability can show up. It's not monolithic.
Not at all. So in 4.10, the questioner is understandably a bit lost, like, okay, where do I even start investigating this?
Yeah.
And asks Ra for the first step.
And Ra, respecting free will, doesn't just give the answer.
Nope. They can't dictate the question. They suggest looking back at everything just discussed to find avenues for inquiry.
And they point out that paradox again, don't they?
Exactly. That ultimately there's only one health, one wholeness.
Yeah.
But in our polarized reality, there are countless types of mind-body-spirit complexes, each with its own distortions or imbalances. So everyone's path to learning about healing might look different.
Each needs to find their own way.
Okay.
So in 4.11, the questioner suggests maybe the first step is finding someone who clearly brought that innate healing ability into this life. And Ra confirms that's the right track for them, for that line of questioning.
Correct. Then 4.12 follows up. If they find such a person, could Ra then give instruction?
And again, yes, but with a caveat about language.
Right. Possible within the limits of vibratory sound complexes, spoken language.
Now, 4.3 is really interesting. The assumption that the healer must be living in harmony with the law of one, even unconsciously.
Yeah. And Ra's answer is correct and incorrect, which, makes you pause.
How so? What's the correct part and what's the incorrect part?
Okay, the correct part applies to someone like the questioner who has that inherent drive towards healing and is actively seeking to understand the law of one. For that person, yes, living it is key.
And the incorrect part.
This is the mind bender. Ra says some individuals might not seem to live in alignment with the law of one outwardly. Maybe their lives look messy or contradictory, but they still might have a clear, open channel to intelligent infinity, allowing them to heal, regardless of their conscious understanding or lifestyle choices. Whoa, okay. So the ability can exist independent of the person's conscious philosophy or actions.
Apparently so, which leads the questioner in 4.14 to ask for more clarity on these two types of healers.
Right. And Ra restates it. You've got those with innate knowing of the law who could heal because of that alignment.
Okay.
And then you've got those who, despite maybe outward appearances, just have that open channel, that connection, enabling healing potential.
But Ra adds a warning about that second type, don't they?
Yes, a significant one. For healers whose lives are really out of sync with their healing work, it can cause problems. Difficulties in channeling the energy purely.
Leading to distortions?
Potentially, yeah. Distortions in themselves, and maybe even in those they try to heal. Ra suggests it might even force them to stop healing altogether.
So integrity and alignment really matter for sustained, healthy healing work.
That's the strong implication. Ra reiterates that those who genuinely seek to serve and are willing to train themselves in thought, word, and action are best suited for this path long term.
Which sets up question 4.15, can Ra provide that training?
And the answer is yes, possible.
Followed by the direct ask in 4.16, will you train us?
And Ra's simple, powerful answer, we will.
A huge moment in the material.
Definitely. So naturally, the next question, 4.17, is, okay, what does this training even involve? Give us a synopsis.
And Ra agrees, acknowledging it's complex involves many vibratory sound complexes, but gives a starting overview. 3 main areas.
What are they?
First, knowing the mind itself. Ra calls this maybe the most demanding part. Seeing consciousness as a reflection, a microcosm of the law of one.
Okay, knowing the mind. Second.
Disciplines of the body complex. This is about balancing love and wisdom and how we use our natural bodily functions.
And third.
The spiritual. This connects the first two. It's about achieving contact with intelligent infinity. So mind, body, spirit integration. That's the framework.
Did they elaborate, like in 4.18?
Yeah, the questioner asks for more on the body and spirit steps. For the body, Ra suggests imagining it from dense physical to subtle energy.
Understanding energy pathways, and seeing how all natural functions, even simple ones, can be approached as sacred, as sacramental.
Elevating the mundane. And for the spirit part.
A great analogy here. Imagine a magnet. One pole is the mind-body reaching up, yearning. The other pole is infinite intelligence streaming down.
Okay.
The spirit's job, Ra says, is to be the integrator, to harmonize that upward reach and downward flow.
Like bridging the finite and the infinite within us. Powerful image.
It is. So 4.19 asks if the training involves specific exercises.
And will it?
Ra confirms, yes, the process will involve fairly specific exercises for mind, body, and spirit. They acknowledge they can't give incarnate examples, being non-physical,
Right.
but they also repeat that healing is just one way the law of one expresses itself. You can understand the law through disciplines of understanding alone without necessarily needing to manifest healing abilities.
Understanding versus manifestation. Got it. Now, near the end, question 4.20 is huge, asking Ra to state the law of one and the laws of healing.
Yeah, a foundational request. And Ra delivers the law of one. All things are one, that there's no polarity, no right or wrong, no disharmony, but only identity. All is one, and that one is love light, light love, the infinite creator.
The core statement. And how does healing relate to that?
Ra calls healing a primal distortion of that law. It happens when an individual, a mind-body-spirit complex, deeply realizes that law of one within themselves.
Realizes that everything is already whole and perfect.
Exactly. That deep realization allows the intelligent infinity within that person to basically reform the illusion of illness or imbalance, bringing it back into alignment with the truth of oneness.
So healing is an internal process triggered by realization. What's the healer's role then?
The healer acts as an energizer or catalyst. They help facilitate that internal realization process in the other person.
Okay. And Ra adds something about responsibility.
Yes, a strong point about the honor duty. Asking to learn healing is itself a form of healing and carries a serious responsibility, especially regarding respecting the free will of others. It's not undertaken lightly.
A very sobering reminder of the ethics involved.
Definitely. The last few questions, 4.21 to 4.23, are more practical. Confirming they'll continue the next day. Confirming the instrument, Carla could handle 2 sessions a day, but warning about needing more food and rest because the channeling is draining.
Makes sense, protecting the channel.
Right. They don't want to deplete her. And then the final closing from Ra.
I leave you in the love and the light of the one infinite creator. Go forth, therefore, rejoicing in the power and the peace of the one infinite creator, Adonai.
So wrapping up session 4. Wow, we've really journeyed through some deep territory. The link between pyramid geometry, initiation, connecting with intelligent infinity.
And how that all ties into the fundamental principles of healing, which are grounded in that core law of one, all is one.
Yeah, these concepts of multidimensional energy, not extra-dimensional, the way the universal energies themselves seem to evolve.
And the different ways healing ability can emerge, sometimes through intense discipline and structure, sometimes through an innate, almost unconscious connection.
What really stands out, I think, is that core message repeated throughout. Everything is interconnected. Everything is fundamentally whole and perfect. Healing isn't about adding something from outside, but about realizing that inherent perfection within.
It's an internal shift, catalyzed perhaps by a healer, but ultimately occurring within the individual's own consciousness.
So maybe the thought to leave everyone with today is, how does this idea of the law of one resonate with your own view of health, of harmony?
Yeah, reflect on that possibility, that the deepest potential for healing, for understanding, isn't out there somewhere, but it's right here within you, as part of the infinite creator, just waiting to be acknowledged.
Namaste. I am you and you are me.